The tarmac trembled before anyone heard the rotors. Then the sky over Seattle General tore open as 4 Black Hawk helicopters descended in a combat formation, usually reserved for war zones, not civilian parking lots. Dust swirled, blinding the terrified hospital security team, who rushed to block the landing. They didn't stand a chance. A dozen Marines in full tactical gear hit the ground weapons at the ready, ignoring the shouting chief surgeon. Their captain didn't ask for the director. He didn't ask for a doctor. He marched straight to the terrified ER entrance and screamed one name that froze the entire staff. "We need Angel 6. Where the hell is Angel 6? The linoleum floor of the emergency room at Seattle General Hospital was a distinct shade of sterile gray, a color Clara Holloway knew intimately. She knew it because she spent most of her 12-hour shifts staring at it, her head down, trying to make herself as small as possible. To the high-powered trauma surgeons and the fresh-faced residents, Clara was just the slow nurse. She was the 40-year-old woman with the heavy limp in her left leg, who couldn't run when a code blue was called. She was the one relegated to changing bedpans, updating charts, and handling the non-critical drunks who wandered in on Friday nights. They didn't know why she limped, and frankly, none of them cared enough to ask. "Move it, Holloway, you're blocking the hallway," Dr. Adrian Prescott snapped, shouldering past her. Prescott was the hospital's star trauma surgeon. Brilliant, handsome, and completely insufferable. He had a jawline that could cut glass and an ego that required its own zip code. Clara stumbled slightly, gripping the edge of the nurse's station to steady herself. Her left leg, the one held together by 3 titanium pins and a mess of scar tissue, throbbed with a dull, familiar ache. "Sorry, Doctor," she murmured, her voice raspy. "Don't be sorry, be faster." Prescott threw back over his shoulder without breaking stride. "We have a multi-car pile-up coming in 10 minutes. If you can't keep up, go work in geriatrics. Or better yet, the morgue. They don't move fast down there." A few of the younger nurses giggled nervously. They idolized Prescott. To them, Clara was just part of the furniture, a slightly broken piece of furniture that the administration hadn't gotten around to replacing yet. Clara adjusted her scrubs and went back to organizing the supply cart. She didn't let the insult sting. She had been insulted by men far scarier than Adrian Prescott. She had been screamed at by drill sergeants in the pouring rain of Paris Island, and cursed out by wounded localized commanders in the dust of Kandahar. Prescott's arrogance was the chirping of a cricket compared to the roar of a mortar shell. But she kept that to herself. Here she was, just Clara. Not Lieutenant Commander. Not Flight Nurse Holloway. And certainly not the call sign she had buried deep in her personnel file 7 years ago. "Hey, Clara." Sarah, a kind but overwhelmed junior nurse, whispered as she hurried past with a tray of IV bags. "Ignore him. He's just stressed. The board says we have a VIP incoming with the crash victims. Some senator's kid or something." "It's fine, Sarah," Clara said softly, her eyes scanning the chaos of the ER with a precision that went unnoticed. While the others saw noise and panic, Clara saw patterns. She saw that bed 4 was going into shock before the monitors even beeped. She saw that the intern in bed 7 was fumbling the intubation. But she stayed silent. She had learned the hard way that in the civilian world, a limping nurse wasn't supposed to diagnose. She was supposed to fetch blankets. The automatic doors slid open with a hiss, and the paramedics rushed in, wheeling a gurney carrying a teenager covered in blood. Male. 17 unrestrained driver. Blunt force trauma to the chest, the paramedic yelled. Prescott was there instantly, barking orders. "Get him to Bay 1. I want a chest X-ray and a full panel stat Holloway. Stay out of the way." "We need space to work." Clara stepped back against the wall, her hands clasped behind her back. She watched Prescott work. He was good, she had to admit. His hands were steady, but he was arrogant. He was treating the patient, not the person. And he was missing something. From her vantage point, Clara could see the boy's neck veins distending. She watched the way his chest rose unevenly. The monitor showed his blood pressure dropping, but his heart rate wasn't spiking as high as it should for hypovolemic shock. Cardiac tamponade, Clara's mind whispered, or a tension pneumothorax on the right side. The breath sounds will be absent. She took a half step forward. "Doctor," she said, her voice low but firm. "Check his right lung sounds. The trachea is deviating slightly." Prescott spun around, his face flushed with adrenaline and rage. "Excuse me. Did I ask for a consult from the peanut gallery? I am the attending here, Holloway. I know what a collapsed lung looks like, and this isn't it. Go get me 2 units of O negative and shut up." Clara clamped her mouth shut. She saw the intern, a young man named Davis, look at her with pity. They all thought she was trying to play doctor. She turned and limped toward the blood bank, her fist clenching at her side. The ghost of the pain in her leg flared up, a reminder of the night she had earned that limp. The night she had hung upside down in a burning fuselage, keeping a Marine sergeant alive with one hand while using the other to tourniquet her own shattered thigh. She retrieved the blood bags, checking the labels 3 times, a habit that never died. When she returned to the trauma bay, the chaos had escalated. The boy was crashing. "BP is 60/40, Davis shouted. "We're losing him. Push EPI poor," Prescott roared. "Where is that blood, Holloway? Move your ass." Clara handed off the blood, her eyes locking onto the patient's chest again. It was worse. The deviation was visible now. If Prescott didn't decompress that chest in the next 60 seconds, the boy would be dead. "He needs a needle decompression," Clara said louder this time. "Right second intercostal space. Now." The room went silent for a microsecond. Prescott threw his stethoscope onto the tray with a clatter. He walked up to Clara, invading her personal space, looming over her. "Get out," he hissed. "Get out of my trauma bay. You are relieved of duty. Get out before I have security drag you out." Clara looked him in the eye. For a split second, the slow nurse vanished, and something steely and dangerous flickered in her gaze. But she blinked, and it was gone. "Yes, doctor," she said. She turned and limped away, the sound of her uneven gait echoing under the beep of the alarms. She walked toward the break room, her heart pounding not with fear, but with frustration. She knew the boy was going to code, and she knew Prescott wouldn't catch it until it was too late. She was just pouring herself a cup of stale coffee when the ground shook. It wasn't an earthquake. It was a vibration that rattled the mugs on the shelf, a deep thumping rhythm that she felt in her bones before she heard it with her ears. Thwop, 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 thwop. Clara froze. She knew that sound. Every cell in her body knew that sound. It was the sound of salvation and the sound of destruction. Rotors, heavy lift, she moved to the window of the break room, which overlooked the parking lot. Her eyes widened. Approaching from the south, flying low and fast over the city skyline, were 4 black shapes, not the red and white of the medevac choppers. These were matte black and olive drab. Military. The hospital PA system crackled to life. the voice of the receptionist trembling. "Security to the main entrance. We have unauthorized aircraft landing in the parking lot. Repeat unauthorized landing." In the ER, the panic shifted from the dying boy to the windows. Patients and nurses alike crowded the glass. "Is it a terrorist attack?" someone screamed. "No," Dr. Prescott shouted, trying to regain control of his floor. "It's probably just a drill gone wrong. Ignore it. Focus on the patients." But it was impossible to ignore. The roar was deafening now. The first helicopter, a UH-60 Black Hawk with no markings other than a Saul grey serial number, flared aggressively over the rows of parked cars. The wash from the rotors sent a compact car skidding sideways. Clara watched from the break room, her coffee forgotten. She pressed her hand against the glass. "What are they doing here?" she thought. "This isn't a designated LZ. They're coming in hot." She watched as the lead chopper touched down its wheels, barely kissing the asphalt before the side doors flew open. They didn't wait for the rotors to slow. Men poured out. Clara counted them instantly. 12. Full kit. Plate carriers. M4 carbines, drop holsters. Fast helmets with comms. This wasn't a National Guard transport. This was a quick reaction force. She squinted. The patches on their shoulders were velcroed on dark grey on black. But she recognized the unit insignia, a dagger through a globe. Force Recon. "Oh God," Clara whispered. The second and third choppers landed in a tight perimeter blocking off the ambulance bay. The fourth hovered overhead, providing overwatch, its sniper leaning out the open door. The doors to the ER burst open, but it wasn't patients coming in. It was the hospital's security guard, an elderly man named Frank, running backward, his hands up. "I couldn't stop them," Frank yelled. "They have guns!" Behind him, the double doors were kicked open so hard, one of them cracked off its hinges. 3 Marines entered first, sweeping the room with their rifles. They didn't aim at the civilians, but their discipline was terrifying. They moved like water flowing around gurneys and freezing the room with their presence. "Everybody stay exactly where you are," the lead Marine shouted. His voice was amplified by the tactical throat mic booming through the small speaker on his vest. "Hands visible. No sudden movements." Dr. Prescott stepped out from the trauma bay, his gloves covered in the teenager's blood. His arrogance, usually his armor, was now a liability. "Who do you think you are?" Prescott demanded, marching toward the armed men. "This is a hospital. You can't just barge in here with weapons. I have a patient dying in there." The lead Marine didn't even blink. He was a giant of a man, easily 6'4", with a scar running through his eyebrow. He simply stepped forward and shoved Prescott back with one hand. It wasn't a violent shove, just a dismissal of an obstacle. Prescott stumbled back 5 feet, gasping. "I am Captain Silas Thorne, United States Marine Corps," the giant boomed. "And I am not here for your patient doctor. I am here for my soldier." "Your soldier," Prescott sputtered, his face turning purple. "We don't have any military admits today. You have the wrong hospital." Captain Thorne ignored him. He reached up and keyed his radio. "Command, we have secured the lobby. Scanning for asset." He pulled a folded piece of paper from his tactical vest and unfolded it. He looked around the room, his eyes scanning the terrified faces of the nurses and doctors. "I am looking for a former service member," Thorne announced, his voice echoing off the tile. "We have intelligence that she is employed at this facility. We need her immediately. It is a matter of national security." The room was silent. "Who?" Prescott asked, his voice shaking slightly. "Who are you looking for?" Thorne looked at the paper, then back at the room. Her name is Clara Holloway, but in the Corps, she was known as Angel 6. A gasp went through the room. Heads turned. Slowly, agonizingly, eyes shifted toward the back of the nurse's station, toward the break room door. Dr. Prescott looked confused. Holloway. The cripple. The janitor nurse. He let out a breathless, incredulous laugh. You're joking. You landed 4 helicopters for the woman who empties the bedpans. Thorne's eyes narrowed. He took a step toward Prescott, and the air in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Watch your tone, civilian. You are speaking about a recipient of the Navy Cross. The silence that followed was absolute. Clara stood in the doorway of the break room. She had heard everything. Her heart was hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. She hadn't heard that call sign in years. Angel 6. She smoothed her scrubs. She took a deep breath. She didn't want this. She had spent 7 years hiding from this. But she knew the look on Captain Thorne's face. She knew that stance. They weren't here for a reunion. Someone was in trouble. Bad trouble. Clara pushed the door open. The squeak of the hinge sounded like a gunshot in the quiet room. I'm here, she said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. Every head turned. Dr. Prescott looked at her, his mouth hanging open. The young intern Davis looked from the Marines to Clara and back. Captain Thorne turned. When he saw her, the hard lines of his face softened for just a fraction of a second. He saw the grey in her hair, the tired lines around her eyes, and he saw the way she leaned on her left leg. But he didn't see a cripple. He snapped to attention. His boots to a horse and slammed together with a crack that made the triage nurse jump. He brought his hand up in a crisp, sharp salute. Ma'am? Thorne said, his voice respectful. Captain Thorne, 1st Recon. We require your assistance. We have a catastrophic situation in the field, and the flight surgeon is down. We have a mass casualty event involving a covert unit 30 miles north. They are trapped in a ravine. We can't get a medevac in, but we can get a bird to hover. He lowered his hand. We need a flight nurse who is combat certified for high-angle rescue. We checked the database. You are the only one in the tri-state area with the rating. Clara stared at him. Captain, I haven't flown in 7 years. My leg... We don't need your legs, ma'am, Thorne said intensely. We need your hands, and we need your brain. There are 7 Marines bleeding out on a mountain right now. One of them is the General's son. They specifically asked for you. Asked for me, Clara whispered. No, Thorne corrected himself. The pinned-down unit. They didn't ask for a nurse. They radioed that they wouldn't let anyone touch them except Angel 6. They said you served with their say in Fallujah. Clara's breath hitched. Fallujah. Is it... She started, her voice trembling. Is it Commander Ricks? Thorne nodded grimly. It is, and he's critical. Clara didn't hesitate anymore. The slow nurse evaporated. The woman who apologized for existing was gone. In her place stood Angel 6. She looked at Thorne. My kit is at my apartment. We have a full trauma kit on the bird, Thorne said. We leave in 2 minutes. Clara nodded. She took a step forward, her limp